Hello, comic book reviews. This time I have the trade paperback of Sex Criminals, Volume One, by Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky, and the coloring is by Becca Kinsey and Christopher Sabella. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting series. It's gotten a lot of critical acclaim, and just going by, it's gotten a lot of critical acclaim, but it's also got going by reviews of like regular people, kind of mixed reviews. A lot of people are either like, this comic is really great, it's super, it's awesome, and then some people are like, it's okay, it's not as smart as it thinks it is, and we'll get to that in a moment. Basically, the premise is it's kind of I would describe it as kind of being a romantic comedy with science fiction elements thrown in there. Basically, we're introduced to a young woman named Susie, and she pretty much tells her kind of coming of age story, her sexual awakening, or whatever. And the twist is that whenever she has sex, whenever she climaxes, time stops. Time literally freezes. People and things stop moving and whatnot, and she, kind of accepts this as her kind of fate, kind of her lot in life, and she just kind of deals with it until she meets a young man named John who has the exact same ability. Time stops whenever he has sex, and they kind of hook up and meet and kind of fall for each other, kind of become a couple. And at one point, they decide that they are going to use their ability to rob the bank that John works for, so they can take the money and save the library that's closing that Susie works for. And in the meantime, there are these other people that are kind of in the background that have been kind of watching John and Susie, and these people either have the same ability or somehow are able to still walk around when the time freeze happens, and they kind of want to apprehend Susie and John, and that's I think that's pretty much all I'll say about the plot without giving too much away. Um, I kind of like the comic. Me personally, I actually kind of really enjoyed reading it. Let's see here. I get how a lot of people were kind of mad on it. Um, a lot of the humor is some of the humor is kind of forced. A lot of it is snarky snark humor, and it's kind of hit or miss. And there's this overwhelming sense by Matt Fraction that he's trying really, 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 really hard to make you just love Susie and John. Susie is so funny and lovable, and John is funny and lovable, and as a couple, they're funny and lovable, and they're gonna go on a funny and lovable, quirky adventure, and you're just gonna love them, love them, love them. Having said all that, some of the snarky humor is kind of funny. Like I said, it's hit or miss, but for me personally, there were more hits, and John and Susie are kind of likable, so it works for me. Let's see here. One thing I really appreciated about this, obviously, is a comic book about romance and sex and intimacy and things like that. And I kind of like when the characters were giving their backstories, they really deal with the fact that a lot of time when you're a younger person, there's lots of I don't know what word I want to use. Disinformation. I don't know if that's the right word, but there's a lot of mistaken assumptions and things you hear about sex that might not actually be 100% accurate. And the only way to really deal with it is to kind of navigate, negotiate, and when you have real life relationships with people and have actual sex, it's the only way to get. That's how you find out the truth, and then sometimes that'll be kind of awkward. Sometimes that'll be, those insecurities are kind of involved with it as well. There's the whole thing where Susie is trying to have conversations about sex with the bad girls at school, and John being kind of obsessed with pornography when he was a kid, and things like that. And like I said, I thought it was really interesting. I really like the fact that they kind of dealt with that aspect of relationships and whatnot, relationships and sexuality, I guess. Um, I really liked how they actually draw Susie and David. Susie's kind of, they're cute, you know what I mean, but they don't have supermodel good looks. They look kind of like, they're cute, but they look like average people. Susie's kind of short, and Susie's kind of short, and maybe could stand to lose a couple pounds. John has kind of a big nose, and and yeah, you know what I mean. It's the kind of comic that ooh, I better not show that page. But it's the kind of comic that here's a better one. It's a kind of comic book that like somebody like Jim Lee, I think, couldn't draw. Not that he couldn't draw it, he could draw, but Jim Lee's people are all his women are supermodels, all his guys are male models, and his superheroes are like male models on steroids. You know what I mean? And I think part of the charm and part of what makes the comic book work is, like I said, they're average people. It kind of makes it kind of more relatable and whatnot. Other than that, other thing about the art is the coloring is really good. Just to give you examples of just random panels and things like that. I kind of like the special effects and the coloring and lighting they use when the time stop happens, and it's just really fun and interesting to look at. Oops, I probably should have given that page away. But that's another funny thing is how do I want to word this? I think what could have helped the comic is like some of the humor is visual humor, and it's comic book visual humor. There's Susie breaking the fourth wall. There's a kind of funny gag about well, the punchline is Benny Hill, but maybe that's only funny if you remember the old Benny Hill TV show. There's a scene that has to do with the rock band Queen that maybe would have worked a little bit better. That actually might have worked better if it was an actual live action scene or movie. But I was going to say the art might have been a little bit better if Matt Fraction and Chip Zdarsky had done what Fraction and David Aja did with Hawkeye, really play with the idea of comic book graphics and the visual potential of the medium, But all in all, I think it was pretty good. I did enjoy it. Like I said, the characters are likable. The plot's kind of quirky, but most of it works. I like the art. I like the coloring and everything, and I might get the next volume. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it is good enough that I want to see what happens next to these characters. Okay, so that's it. I got to thank you very much for listening, and you have a good day.